Bitcoin, for all practical purposes, peaked out about 4 or 5 years ago. The high in Bitcoin in 2021 in November was 69,000.
Mm-hmm.
It's lower than that today. 4.5 years later, it's lower. But in terms of gold, it's more than 60% lower. So most people who own Bitcoin today would be better off had they bought gold. Now, that's not the case for people who bought it 10, 15 years ago, but there's not that many of those. The majority of people who own Bitcoin bought it over the last few years, and they would be better off had they not bought it. Had they listened to me and bought gold or silver instead of Bitcoin or anything else. I mean, they could have bought stocks, they could have bought whatever. They would have probably been better off than Bitcoin. And a perfect example of that is Michael Saylor, who is the most famous Bitcoin buyer of them all. He is the poster boy for Bitcoin buyers. He's bought or spent $55 billion buying Bitcoin for over 5 years. The average cost on all that Bitcoin that he bought is $76,000 and change. It's right now $66,000. So he's down, what is that, 13%? Something like that. I mean, he'd have been better off just putting the money in a checking account. He's down. And so obviously that was not a good thing to do. Now, MicroStrategy or strategy stock went up a lot because there were a bunch of fools, even more foolish than the people buying Bitcoin were the people buying strategy, because they were paying a 50% premium to buy strategy and all he did is go out and buy Bitcoin with the money. So he did accumulate all this Bitcoin because people were dumb enough to overpay for his stock. But, now the stock's down 70% and it's got a long way to fall.
Do you talk to Michael Saylor much?
No, I was in the same room with him one time. We were at a party in Dubai, and I didn't really know what to say to the guy because I had just posted on X that he was a fraud. He was saying something, and I called him like a fraud or a scar. And so I didn't really know hey, how you doing, Michael? Because I had just said this stuff about him. So I kind of didn't approach him, and he just kind of never approached me. So we were both in the same house. Not too.
How recent was this?
It was. We were there for it was a Bitcoin conference from Binance, and I was there. I did the debate with CZ, Gold Bitcoin debate.
And how many people were in this house? Was it clear you were avoiding him? Were people going up to you and saying?
I actually walked right by him to get a drink. I didn't.
Did you nod at him?
I could hear him. I could hear him talking from a while away, and all he was doing was pitching Bitcoin. I mean, he's always on. He was, Bitcoin, telling people buy it, all his BS. But no, I mean, I don't remember exactly how many people were at the party, 75, 100 people. I mean, whatever. I mean, he knew I was there, but I had wanted to debate him, and I still, want to debate the guy, but he won't agree to any debates, including, at that conference. But I've been to several conferences where he was there. In fact, at the bigger Bitcoin conference that they had in Las Vegas last summer, he mentioned, he had his keynote speech and he mentioned me twice, so he talks about me, but he won't debate me.
But is there anything that he could say to you that would change your mind on Bitcoin?
Oh no, there's no way. I mean, I see right through this guy. I mean, everything he says is complete bullshit. I don't understand how people can listen to him and not understand how it's all bullshit.
Do you think Michael Saylor is smart?
Yeah, I think he's probably got a higher IQ than I do. I'm not saying that he's dumb. I don't even know if he believes the nonsense that he says. He could just be a complete fraud.
We filmed a podcast with him, and I mean, he obviously was wearing his Bitcoin shirt and everything, and then we show up, and then before and after the podcast, as he's touring us his estate, he's like, "Man, yeah, Bitcoin it's the way. It is the language. It is the everything."
Well, I think as though you got to prophesize it. It's like a cult. He's a cult leader, right? He's got to get people into it. But he compares Bitcoin, right, to Manhattan real estate now. I mean, he used to compare it to gold. Now he's on Manhattan real estate. But what gives Manhattan real estate value is yes, there's a scarce amount of it, right? But it rents for a lot of money. So if you own real estate in Manhattan, whether it's office buildings or residential or, shops, you collect a lot of rent, right? That's what gives it the value. The fact that people will pay a lot of money to use your real estate. You don't get any money on your Bitcoin. He's not collecting any rent because he owns Bitcoin. He doesn't get anything. Bitcoin doesn't deliver any real value.
What do you say is the fatal flaw of Bitcoin?
The fact that it has no fundamental value. Gold is a store of value because gold is a metal. It is a precious metal that doesn't decay. It doesn't, lose its properties over time. Gold today is exactly the same as it was 1,000 years ago, and the gold will be exactly the same 1,000 years from now. Doesn't matter what I do with it. It can always be melted back down and go back to exactly the way it was. And gold is the most useful metal that we have. It's used for all sorts of things. And because of those unique properties that gold has that other metals, other commodities don't have, that's the value. But one of the things that gold does really, really well is serve as money because it's divisible, it's portable, it's fungible. There are all these qualities that it has that other commodities don't really have to that degree. Now, those are the qualities that Bitcoin copied and said, hey, we're divisible, we're portable, we're fungible, we're scarce, so we're the same as gold. No, you're not, because you can't do anything with Bitcoin. It doesn't matter that I can give it to somebody else or that I can trade it. You could do that with any one of thousands of other digital currencies. There are a lot of other ones that to me seem a lot more valuable than Bitcoin in that at least they deliver some degree of privacy or anonymity if that's what you want. If you want to transact in private without anybody knowing what you're doing, there may be some value there. But Bitcoin doesn't even offer that. And now, a lot of the things that people liked about Bitcoin, self-custody, okay, well, most people now are buying ETFs. They don't self-custody. They don't like, there's no third party. Well, yes, there is a third party. MicroStrategy is a third party buying up all this Bitcoin. I mean, Bitcoin is now part of Wall Street. I mean, look at the president. The president, is all in on Bitcoin. His whole family, they're mining Bitcoin. He wants to make the United States the Bitcoin capital of the world. I mean, so it's no longer the type of, in your face, sticking to the man, self-sovereign, ideal that a lot of the early, adopters who listen to my podcast and my radio show got interested in Bitcoin. It's none of those things now.
You say it's just a speculative investment now, or a speculative gamble is what you would call it.
I mean, look, to me, people collect Bitcoin the way, they collect, cards, whatever. They're collections. And the reason that they collect Bitcoin is because they think that their Bitcoin collections are going to be more valuable in the future.
What is the strongest pro-Bitcoin argument you've ever heard?
And really quick, I gotta say, something that Jack and I have been trying to do a lot more lately is just to remove the annoyances that quietly waste time and energy, because those things add up fast. The thing is, we're always on the go, we're always trying to get to the next thing, so having a cleaner setup and a little more control in your day really goes a long way, and that is exactly why we absolutely love MagBack. The MagBack Elite case is so much more than just a case. It has the finger loop for a secure grip, side grips that feel great, a pinky pillow for comfort, and a built-in kickstand when you need it.
That is all built to make everyday use way better. And it also just comes with a screen protector, so that's one less thing that you have to worry about.
Then they also have their MagBack 3-in-1 home multi-charger that keeps everything clean and ready to go. You drop your phone, AirPods, and Apple Watch on it at night, and by morning, everything is charged in one place. What I really like about this is that it's not just like a mess of wires that looks awful. I don't have to try to plug and play and which one does what. It's all in one place, and it looks incredibly clean, and it just makes it easy.
I kid you not, Graham and I are genuinely huge fans of MagBack. I use their wallet, I use their phone case, and also on the side of my Tesla screen, I put my phone up there. It is so helpful. Check it out with this footage. I can guarantee if you're on Apple or Android, they have something for you. So if you want to make your setup cleaner and way more efficient, definitely check them out with the link down below, and don't forget to use our code, which is also down below. What is the strongest pro-Bitcoin argument you've ever heard?
If Bitcoin was some kind of a unique thing in that it was the only one. There were no other tokens. There was no other way. There were no other blockchains. It really was scarce in a sense that it was the only one. You could kind of make an argument, maybe, that its lack of intrinsic value, it doesn't matter because it truly is scarce. But again, it would still depend on the confidence that people have in other people constantly believing that it has value.
That's not a strong argument, though.
No, there is no strong argument for
What's
Bitcoin.
the strongest you've ever heard?
I mean, I can't remember.
I mean,
I've
you've
had so
talked to
many people.
CZ recently. I mean, you've talked to some big.
You've probably heard some pretty strong.
Look, most of the people understand, even in this industry, that the real threat to Bitcoin now isn't all the shit coins. It's tokenized gold. Because tokenized gold does everything that Bitcoin is supposed to do, but can't. And everything that Bitcoin can do, tokenized gold does better. And tokenized gold is much better than tokenized dollars, which is what, a lot of the people in the stablecoin industry are focused on. But look at what the biggest stablecoin issuer, Tether, is doing. What is Tether doing? They have pivoted to gold. They're buying up gold. They're buying up gold royalty companies. They're buying into gold retailers. They are, buying all this gold and they're storing it in a mountain in Switzerland because they recognize that that's the future of crypto. It's gold. It's tokenized gold where the token represents ownership of real gold. That's digital gold. I mean, I'm even participating to an extent. I set up T-Gold, as part of Schiff Gold. You can go to tgold.com and open up an account. We're not offering tokens yet, but ultimately the gold that you own at T-Gold, you'll be able to withdraw it in the form of a token. But even before you can do that, I'm going to allow owners to transact with one another where you can, send and receive gold as a medium of exchange. So you can be paid in gold, you can pay in gold, not just saving.
And you just
gold.
Keep a ledger or a log?
Yeah, that's just an internal.
Okay.
That's an internal an account. But ultimately, you can withdraw your gold in the form of a token and then put it in your wallet, and you can trade it on an exchange, or you can do a lot of things with it.
So of all of the millions of supporters of Bitcoin, you don't think that there's any merit, any reason that one could have that makes any logical sense whatsoever to support Bitcoin?
And is there anything that could happen to Bitcoin where you would say, hey, I'm wrong?
Well, it's obviously not a function of price because it's gone up a lot since I first started criticizing it. But no, the people who buy Bitcoin, most of them, the vast majority, buy it because they think they're going to get rich. They think the price is going to go way up. And the only way the price of Bitcoin can go way up is if other people decide to pay more for it. But those people are buying it for the same reason that you're selling it. They think it's going to go up. So they have to buy it with the expectation of they'll find somebody else who will pay even more than they did. And the name of that is called the greater fool, right? Everybody is hoping that there's a greater fool than they are who will pay a higher price for what amounts to nothing.
But isn't that true for anything?
No.
Housing,
no,
it's
not.
Some stocks.
No, it's not.
Even precious metals. That someone's hoping, I'm going to buy gold at 5,000. It'll be worth 10,000 because you're going to print all this money and I'll make money from it.
No. Well, but there you're just preserving your purchasing power. But yes, a lot of people buy a stock or a piece of real estate because they think the price will be higher. But it's not because some greater fool is going to buy it. If I buy a stock in a company and the company expands its business and has more sales and has more income, the company is worth more than it was when I bought it. So the new buyer would naturally have to pay more because the company is more valuable. It's generating more profits. It's paying higher dividends. Same thing if I buy a piece of real estate and while I own it, the rental income goes up. I can charge higher rates because now maybe more people have moved into the area. There's more demand. I was smart. I bought, recognizing that there was going to be people moving into the neighborhood, whatever. And so the property became more valuable between the time I bought it and the time I sold it. So I can sell a stock or a piece of real estate at a higher price because it's inherently more valuable. Bitcoin never becomes more valuable. It doesn't throw off any income, doesn't pay rent, it doesn't pay you dividends. It's just a token. And, the supply is what it is, right? It's not, it's not becoming more scarce. It's pretty much almost all the Bitcoin that are ever going to be here are pretty much already here. And so it's just a function of somebody being willing to pay more money than I did for the exact same thing that I bought. So it hasn't increased in value since I bought it. It's exactly the same. The only thing that's changing is the price. And if you're just buying something simply because you hope the price will go up, even though it hasn't become any more valuable, just become more expensive, that's the greater fool. Now, you could say, well, what about gold? Gold doesn't have any income. Right, but gold is a metal that's used. And you can think, well, what do jewelers need to pay to buy gold? What do computer manufacturers need to pay to buy gold, who need gold, in their chips? Or what do central bankers have to pay who need gold to back up their currencies? I mean, one of the things that's happening right now among central banks is they want to get rid of the dollar. They have too many dollars and we're creating too many. We have too much debt. So the world central banks are now trying to divest of dollars because they recognize that even though they can earn interest on those dollars by buying treasuries, they're not going to keep pace with the rate at which the dollar is going to be depreciating. So they need something else to own in place of dollars, and gold is the obvious choice. And so there's central bank demand. So you have all this real demand. So when you're buying gold, you know that you're going to have that demand in the future coming from industry, coming from central banks. You're not going to have that. The only demand for Bitcoin is speculators betting that the price is going to go up. There's no underlying user who needs Bitcoin. Anybody who wants Bitcoin, I hear people say, but you can use it to send money across borders. You could do the same thing with stablecoins. You could do the same thing with tokenized gold. What the hell do you need Bitcoin for? And there's all kinds of other crap tokens that will do what Bitcoin does. So there's the only thing that's unique about Bitcoin is it's got a bigger cult and it's got a higher market cap. But all that's going to change. Like I think if you look at where Bitcoin is now, the air is coming out of this bubble. The only time I went out on a limb and I thought Bitcoin had peaked, because all the time was going up, I kept conceding, look, I don't know how high this thing can go. You can go to 5,000, you can go to 10,000, you can go to 50. I said, I don't know. It's not worth anything. So the fact that it's, got a price, obviously people could pay more. But after it got to that 69,000 peak back in 2021, and it sold off to about, 15, 16,000. And people were saying it's going to 100,000. I said, look, it's not going to go to 100,000. I thought it had kind of peaked out, or maybe it would double top. I didn't think it would get to 100,000 at that point. Donald Trump won, and it went to 100,000. Now, I think had Donald Trump not won, I don't think we ever would have seen $100,000 Bitcoin. But I think all of the hype that accompanied that, and that's really what enabled Saylor to buy so much, all these other copycat crypto companies, treasury companies, all the ETFs that came out, all the demand was that Trump is going to make us the Bitcoin capital. We're going to have a strategic reserve. You got to buy Bitcoin because the U.S. government is behind Bitcoin. It's going to be pushing Bitcoin. And that hype enabled the price to rise. But I think a lot of the smarter holders took advantage of that to sell. I think a lot of the guys that helped bankroll Trump's campaign donate a lot of money to get the Bitcoin president, knowing that this would happen. I think they sold into the mania. And now, you've distributed the tokens much more broadly. You have a lot of people who own these Bitcoin ETFs. I think they're not true believers. I think they're going to sell. You've also got a lot of people now that have borrowed against their Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the collateral now for a lot of loans. This is ridiculous. So I think now we've peaked. I think the high is in Bitcoin. It's headed lower now. I think that the next point of support on the way down is going to be around 50,000. I think once it breaks 50, it's going below 20. That would be over an 80% drop from the peak. We might have a bounce from 20. Maybe it go from 20 to 30 or 4. People get excited again, and then it'll go down to 10. I think it's now just about the air coming out of the bubble, and eventually I think strategy just goes out of business. I think they're going to be forced to liquidate all their Bitcoin. I think they're going to ultimately have to stop paying the dividends on the preferreds, and they're just going to crash. The whole thing is going to implode.